social media land. We are the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, here for another episode of A Youth Perspective. As you know, we've been having a dynamic summer series focused on mental health and really looking at the impacts of mental health, but not just mental health from the negative end of the spectrum, not just people that are suffering with depression and anxiety, but mental health is a spectrum, and there's a positive end. There's those things that are bring you joy. That's mindfulness, that's relaxation. That there's so many aspects to the spectrum of mental health, and we are here to discuss that. And we want to do that in the context of talking about first responders, right? So we know from several different types of crises, whether we talk about the Flint water crisis, whether we talk about COVID, whether we talk about the engagement between communities and law enforcement. There are so many types of crises that happen. And then there are those frontline responders who are always there, right? Whether it's from policing to paramedics to, the docs in the ER, mental health specialists, firefighters, EMT and EMS, all of those people are our first responders. And so the youth want to really engage, one, about what is it like to be in those career fields, but also what are some of the mental health stressors that comes along with that job and with those territories? And then more importantly, how do you cope with them? So we're going to have a very, very, very engaging discussion today, really focused on looking at the impacts of mental health in first responding careers and fields, but also, again, just uplifting the fact that we all have mental health. We want to destigmatize mental health. Mental health is everyone. Just like you have your physical health and your oral health checked every year, you should also have regular mental health checkups, because situations, circumstances, they come in our life. Sometimes they're outside of our control, and they have the ability to impact us. And as we are waiting for a couple other students to join, what we do is offer up this historical cultural lesson, right? And so many of you know about what they call the Sphinx in Egypt. The original name of the Sphinx is the Haramket, right? And the original name of Egypt is Kemet or Nubia, right? Before the Europeans colonized it. And so what we talk about is when the ancient Africans built the Haramket or the Sphinx, it was telling us about how to take care of our whole self, right? What they were saying is that in the upper half, we have that prince, that pharaoh's head, that's our higher nature. And then that lower half, we have the animal or the lion's body, that's our lower nature. And at any given time, we can either ascend into our higher self or descend into our lower self. And a lot of times you have to know what your triggers are. You have to know those things that trigger you mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and that causes you to just change your entire energy. And so we really want to talk about the spectrum of mental health, being that pharaoh, being that good place in our mental health, and then that lion, that animalistic part of us that comes out when we're angry or when we're in a rage or when we're upset. And so even from a cultural perspective, this is not a new dynamic. It's not new at all. When the Greeks and the Europeans conquered Kemet, renamed it Egypt, they put it in cartoons for us. And when I was watching Tom and Jerry, a little angel was right here saying, do it. And the little devil was saying, do it to Tom. And the little angel was saying, don't do it, right? And then they renamed it and called it our consciousness, right? And so this is something that we all have to deal with. And even on our jobs, it's like, why? Sometimes you're so stressed out, it's like, why am I here? I don't have to put up with all of this. And then, just in life itself has a way of putting us through the ringer, I would say. So we want to talk about mental health from the perspective of emergency responders. We're going to go ahead and get started, and you'll see other students join in. And when they join in, we'll just bring them in when they get on. And so we want to first introduce our guests. So all of the Flint Public Health Youth Academy panel and interns. We just want you to wave at the people. You guys are reoccurring folks, so I get comments all the time about Kayla and Cruz and Amir and Everett and Cole and Christian, so they know your faces. But we have guests that we're going to highlight on today. One is Dr. Sarah Bailey. She'll tell you a little bit about who she is and her history in just a moment. Then we'll have Dr. Vanessa DeDanzing, who will also give you a little bit about her history as well. And then we have Rashamir Neal, and he will give us a little bit about his history. But each of them have worked in emergency responding positions and fields, and we're going to learn about their field, and then we'll dive into the questions. So if you guys can just give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you have done as it relates to emergency response. Thank you. We'll start with you, Dr. Bailey.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening to my friend over there from Brooklyn. My name is Dr. Sarah Bailey, and I have worked in the city of Flint and the state of Michigan for more than 46 years, initially as a clinician, working in the field of substance abuse, those persons who have suffered from the throes of substance abuse. I've treated more than 10,000 people in that effort and seen most of them make it through the throes of substance abuse into a recovery situation. In that emergency, I've worked with the Genesee County Sheriff's Department as well as with the fire department. For a long time, I was the clinical therapist for them because oftentimes when an individual goes to a crime scene or to a fire scene, the things that they see can wreak emotional havoc on them, and they need an opportunity to debrief. I've also been a debriefer for the American Red Cross for disasters and worked with folks that have gone through all kinds of disasters, understanding how to debrief from those situations. And many times what happens is that the workers are not debriefed. They will send a lot of resources to those individuals that have to go through that, but to the people who have to work in those fields, very seldom are they given the opportunity to debrief on what they have seen, heard, experienced, have gone through. And many of them then are thrown back on the job. And those are the people that you see coming at you, police officers who maybe 2 hours ago was at a scene where, children were murdered and now have to deal with you. And they haven't debriefed from that situation. They become volatile, and how they respond to you may be impacted because they have not gone through this. And so we did a lot of work way back in the early 80s to ensure that those individuals were taken care of just as well as everyone else.
Thank you. So now we'll have Dr. DeDanzine.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to share this platform, and back to you, Dr. Bailey. Thank you. Yes, I'm Dr. Vanessa DeDanzing. I'm a doctor of public health professional. I'm a retired detective in the New York City Police Department. And at capacity, I work at the Missing Persons Squad, at the Office of Chief Medical Examiner's Office. And I'm also the director of the community-based organization Partners Brooklyn chapter. I agree, there's a lot of things in this capacity. There is a lot of things in this capacity that we see that a normal person don't see. And I can echo Dr. Bailey when it comes to the debriefing. It's a lot of things. It's just so overwhelmed sometimes when you deal with officers, not in addition to the community, but also officers. But also, I also work as a dispatcher and a clinical coordinator for PAPA, which is a police organization providing peer assistance. And that's where we man a 24-hour hotline for officers that are in some kind of crisis. And I'm also one of the dispatchers that is on call with operations, although retired, but I'm still a part of PD because once you're a cop, you're always a cop. Every fourth month with operations on call for any traumatic events that happen in the city. So it's, my take with mental health is a long spectrum because I'm dealing with the community, I'm dealing with homicides, and I'm dealing with officers, and um, it's a different mental capacity that dwells upon you when you're in triage and office of medical examiners when we have our cases, and it's an officer that comes in there who either has been executed or died in some traumatic event, and they're donning that same uniform that you have. So it's a lot of things that not just it's not just it just doesn't leave with the job, is a continuing thing, and I can't say that I don't have any of these recollections and these pictures and things that go on because I do see them every day, and I just try to just stay focused. Thank you.
Thank you. Rashomir.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so
Hello.
much for having me on a platform. So, yes, like they said, my name is Rashomir Neal, born and raised in Flint. I used to work for the city of Flint Fire Department. I no longer work there. I currently work at a different fire department around the state. I'm a firefighter, paramedic. I'm a hazmat technician. I'm an instructor coordinator for fire and EMS. I also I'm an entrepreneur, so I own a CPR training company and catering business around the city, throughout the state. So yes, both of the docs they hit right home. I had quite a few situations in my career. Even had a coworker actually murdered on shift, and I actually tended to it. But I had two incidents prior to that, 2013. That one happened in 2015. 2013, had two infant deaths, and it actually had me about to walk away from EMS and fire. And I'm sorry, but the first doc that was on, she stated something about how jobs most of the time they want to put you back to work. And actually, the EMS company I had worked for, they actually did. I knew I needed help because I was crying when I see certain kids or certain type of hairstyles that mimic the child that was murdered. And I asked them for help. I put my pride aside. It was the biggest thing with us is because we type A personalities. I'm not gonna lie, it's the pride. So I was young but mature enough to put my pride aside. Which fast forward to the event that happened in 2015. Like I said, I tended and took care of that patient, my coworker, who is now deceased. That actually helped me. And I still to this day got guys who come to me for help dealing with that situation. And we talk and like I try to use the balloon analogy. Like, hey, if you keep letting this stuff build up, eventually, just like a balloon, if you just keep putting things in a balloon or filling it up, whether it's water or air, it's going to eventually pop. So I was like, you need to let it out. And so far, so good. Um, on the department, we deal with quite a bit of suicide. I actually just in Florida a couple days ago, you guys can read about it. A firefighter killed himself at the station. So it's bad. And this right here, like I want to thank you guys. I really truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you for having me on this forum because we're fighting an uphill battle every day since I've been here on the department that I'm on. And I'm sorry I can't state what department I'm on because I don't have permission to be in uniform. So, but if you know me or look on my page, you'll see. But I didn't tell you. uh, but since I've been on this department, there's been about 4 suicides, and I've been here 7 years. So that is bad. And we're working day in, day out, talking with everyone, and even trying to drop our pride. If I can't stress it enough, it's our pride. We don't want to look vulnerable to the next person, and we're just saying like it's okay. I'm a part of like 3 group chats, and even one of them I was still with quite a bit of City of Flint firefighters. And like even all of us, just the way that we say, show love to each other, uplift each other, and then we can actually unload our balloon into that chat. And then you'll find out there's other individuals having the same issues. I use that platform as well when I teach CPR. So I teach over 10 classes a week. So with that, I can touch a ton of students a week who's just going into the medical field. And I'll tell them, hey, you got to get you a buddy. And you can't always take those things home, because your significant other, your partner, they might not understand what you're going through. So you take this stuff home. Now you're adding stress onto them that they don't understand. So I got a friend. I'm thankful to have a pastor as well that I can go and talk to whenever I have issues. And he's one of the individuals I talk to when I dealt with the baby deaths. And like he gave me a lot of good information that I still use to this day. But like I said, I thank you guys. This is something great. And I will be tuning into you guys now that I know you guys go live. So
thank you so much. And we're so grateful that you're here with us. So in partnership with the Flint Public Health Youth Academy and the work that we're doing with this mental health campaign is in partnership with sponsors from Recast and Community Foundation of Greater Flint and so many other groups that have supported us, Youth Quest along the way. And we've invited youth from Youth Quest and from other Recast programs and the WOW Youth to be a part of this summer series. And so we're so excited. So you guys will be reaching a lot of young people. But we're partnering with WOW Outreach. And so Miss Kenyatta Dodson is on here on the line with us, who coordinates that youth program. Kenyatta, tell everybody, hey, I see you driving, so go back off. We want you to be safe, but we can hear your voice if you want to say something.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you today. And we do have youth on. They're going to be coming on camera in just a moment. They had a few difficulties and glitches in getting on, but they are here. So we're happy to be with you all today.
Great. And so we're going to get started. I saw that Heavens was on, and I believe Kendall. So we're going to get right into our questions. So Heavens,
and Lupe is as well, Dr. King.
Great. Thank you. So, okay, our first three questions in this row, it'll be Heavens, Kendall, then Lupe. Go ahead, Heavens.
Hi guys.
Hey.
I'm on my phone right now, so it's kind of shaky, but I was wondering what your job/career is like.
So tell us about your job and career. What is it like on a daily basis?
Oh, my job and career?
No. I was just following up your question to them. You asked the question, I was just following up with you.
Okay, I'll jump in since I'm retired, so I can tell you how it was. My day at the ME's office would start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So what I would do.
What's ME? What's ME?
Examiner's office. Okay. But I mentioned earlier, I work for the Office of Chief Medical Examiner's Office. I'm in the missing person squad as a detective in NYPD, New York City Police Department. So working in that capacity, I would watch the news, and sometimes my news would kind of dictate how my day would be. If there's, I didn't even, if there was a shooting, we took care of all of Brooklyn, all of Staten Island. If it was a shooting or something was going on, some kind of traumatic event, or if I was in the capacity of being a dispatcher with PAPA, which is a police organization providing peer assistance, it depends on what's going on. Am I getting a call that an officer has committed suicide? If I'm getting a call that an officer has been shot, or if I'm getting a call that an officer has been in a shooting, or if an officer has been shot, is that officer coming to my office? And it's the difference when you're donning this uniform and you see an officer that has been killed in line of duty on an autopsy, in the autopsy suite, and they looking like you doing that, donning that uniform. And the difference with that situation is that we as detectives in that capacity, we have to stay with that body 24 hours a day until the family removes the body. So it's a lot of things that come with that. It's just some images and stuff you don't forget. You can't, it's just always there. And prior to working as with the New York City Police Department, and Office of Chief Medical Examiners, I had worked in the OCME, which is Office of Chief Medical Examiners, and I worked on a pediatric death registry where we tried to find some type of correlation between kids 0 to 13 and how they was died in New York City. So I could echo some of the things that Rashida Niels was saying in terms of seeing infant deaths, especially when you have kids and you watch the news. Sometimes it's just hard turning things off. Sometimes even today I'll ride down, regular driving in the street, and I'll remember, oh, it was a homicide there, or this was a homicide there, or something else, and it's just bad. So I just try to just stay focused, try to work on a lot of self-care of how we teach and train officers when they're responding to a traumatic event or a scene or some kind of incident. We do a debriefing also to just make sure that, okay, it's okay that you're responding. You have an abnormal reaction. You have a normal reaction to an abnormal event. So this is something that, and I can also echo that in this capacity of law enforcement as a first responder, yeah, you do have that ego, that thing where you don't want to show the pride less than outside, because if you're taking care of the community and the public, like how can you need help? So everybody think you're there to solving all their problems, but they forget that we're human and we have issues, we have problems, we have things going on at home, and it's a challenge every day, sometimes to just don that uniform.
Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in on that question?
Yeah, when I was
Yes, I will.
Go ahead.
No, you got it, ladies first.
When I was in private practice and I was treating police officers and fire department officers as well, one of the things that would happen is that immediately following some type of incident, I would notice that they would increase in the number of sessions that they needed to have. I kind of required that they come in at least once a week, but after a critical incident occurred, they may have needed to come in twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. I also set up a group dynamic for them to be able to learn how to share with each other, so that they did not have to feel like they had to go through this all by themselves. And many times they could not go through it with the individuals at home because they just didn't understand the pressures that they were under. I've had to also put some of them out on sick leave and they didn't want to do it, and recommend to their captains and to their supervisors that they actually be relieved from duty because they were not safe for themselves and for others. And that's the whole time that you want to make sure that that individual is being safe. And many of them would have recurring visions of the incidences that they had gone through, the scenes that they had seen, and they would play over and over again in their minds. And one of the things that we taught them to do is to talk it out, because what most people want to do is try to forget and not talk. But one of the ways of forgetting is talking, and you talk until you don't need to talk anymore. And that's hard for people to understand because most people want to close up, and keep it to yourself and present this strong picture, when really it's okay for you to lose it a little bit, just not forever.
Thank you. Rashomir?
Okay. So, firefighter, paramedic. So I respond to calls ranging from, yes, cats in a tree, all the way on to, like we said, infant baby deaths. We respond to fires. There's been times where I had to respond to a fire and entrapment, which means there's somebody stuck in a fire currently, and we have to go in and get them. Not all the time has it been successful. Also, too, what I miss working in my city is running on individuals that I knew. So it is a pride factor for me, is taking care of people in my city because I know I'm going to do the best for them. But that's stress within itself, because I have ran on a total of 6 family members on some critical serious calls. My very first shooting was my cousin that I experienced. He made it, still living. Um, but it's things like that. Also, I want to elaborate on what Doc just said as far as talking until you can't talk no more. I can't stress that enough. Also, too, if you're a listening ear, please listen to hear the individual. You know, let that individual get everything they need to have out. You know, most of the time, that's not the time for them to hear our opinions or for us to judge them or anything like that. So if we can just listen, and that's the problem I feel we have in the world is a communication problem. If we just communicate and listen to one another and just show some sympathy towards one another, I guarantee you this world will be a better place. And here we sitting here talking about mental health, which is great. So all a person want to do is be heard. So if you look at most of the suicide, they say suicide is people trying to gain attention and things like that. All that person want to be is just they want to be held, they want to be heard. You know, they want to show that, you know, people are paying attention to them. So if you could please listen with open ears. Listen with open ears, more so to listen than to talk. Now, if you got some advice every so often, maybe, you know, throw that in there at them, but let that individual talk. Let them empty that balloon that they have. Let them empty that balloon because we don't want to get to the point where their balloon is just filling up, and then boom, they snap. So, um, some of my history that I seen, I used to do body removals, and you got to figure I started when I was 19 years old. So I was a 19-year-old doing body removals throughout the whole Genesee County. So ranging from children all the way up to elderly. I did that for about 3 years, um, and that within itself, like I said, caused a lot of stress. Looking at certain individuals, first, Doc, you talk about streets, passing streets, and other areas, and you notice like, hey, it was a crime there. I just said that today. The car that I just got off of was an accident in front of our station, but it's been an accident in front of the station in almost 4 different areas. And I was like, yep, now we got a marking on this area right here. So it's just
Wow.
something that, something that little humor that we have to keep our day going as far as, the EMS and fire service. But
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Kendall, you want to have our next question? You still on, Kendall? Oh, she's taking her mask off. We can't hear you though.
Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yes.
Okay. My question is, what, why did you choose your career?
Great. So the job or career that you're on, why did you choose that one?
Okay. I chose my career because I love helping people, and my personality fits well with my career. I always say my parents have created a firefighter paramedic just by the way that I was raised. But to see somebody at their worst, I know for a fact I trust myself I might not fix their problem 100%, but I know for a fact that, hey, I can do something to impact them and make them feel a little bit better and also leave them with some type of hope. But like I said, it's the whole thing of helping people.
Okay, I'll jump in. Likewise, it's about helping people, and actually, for me to be in the police department was like a big shocker to my family, because I had a forensic background, and what I focused on toxicology and criminalistic. So when I went to the police department, we had no family, and there was law enforcement. Nobody played cops and robbers. Nobody knew anything about PD other than what you heard on the news. So my thing was, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get in crime scene. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to make the department work for me. But then getting into the department, donning a uniform, dealing with the community, it was like, I could do this. So it becomes more than just a uniform. You become part of the community. And even sometimes people may say, well, why are you talking to the family so much? Why are you talking to the people so much? Just do this X, Y, Z. I said, no, because it's your whole self that you bring to the table. And then when you have the background of forensic, you can't do things halfway, right? Halfway. So you have to do it all as if it's a chain of command, a chain of custody, right? So you have to deal with everybody at that level as such. Now, when you have families coming to you, looking for you, I recall, I'll tell you one incident. I was on patrol, of course, many years ago, and it was a shooting, and a young man passed away. And I wasn't a detective at the time, and his mother came into the squad to speak to the detective that was on the case, and she was asking for the officer who was on the scene. So I found it really strange. They came looking for me. Oh, but that's somebody want to see you in the squad. So I go to the squad, and I couldn't understand why this woman was looking for me. And she just wanted to know who the officer was who was there with her son when he took his last breath. So these things speak volumes that you're much more than just an officer when the community looks at you. And although with the climate of today, there's a lot of good cops out there that do things. And okay, you got a bad cop do something, he's on the headlines. You got a good cop do something, he's on page 50. The incident's on page 50, nobody get a chance to recognize. There's a lot of things that people just want you to have to lend that ear to them, to show that empathy. So it comes outside of the uniform at times.
Yes, I chime in on that. My original background was in business and accounting and bookkeeping and all of that. So that's where all of that comes from, Dr. Key. But while I was in school, I walked into the wrong classroom, and the instructor was actually providing some information, and I sat down and listened, and I realized this sounds more like me. I'm empathetic. I feel what other people feel. I know what they are. I have a feeling for what they are going through, and I'm a good listener. And that's what you really have to be in order to provide the kind of treatment and therapy that people really need, is to be able to listen to them, because most of the answers are within them. And they have to be able to talk through to find their own way out of the maze that they've created for themselves or someone else created for them. And because you are a good listener, then you are able to assist and help them. And so then it was all about increasing my knowledge level. And then one of those days I walked in and I was the person they hired. So a lot of things happen to us, not because we actually are moving towards it, but because it's designed for us, it's predestined that this is where we're going to end up no matter what. And many of you I know already are very empathetic. So just keep your options open to yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Lupe has our third question, and we have about 7 more questions to go. So Lupe, you're up.
Okay, what formal or informal training did you have to go through for your career?
Training, informal or formal?
So with my job, you have to have at least a high school diploma or a GED. Also, too, I want you to know that you can have your GED and your driver's license, and you are a qualified candidate for the fire department and also EMS. We would train you. So formal, informal training that I done went through, I had to go through, of course, the fire academy. That was about 3 months. We went to class every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, sometimes till 7. Then also as an EMT, same thing, 3 months, Monday through Friday course. So in about 6 months, I made a career for me. And just to let you guys know, I have no degree. I got a ton of college credits, but I have no degree, and I have a career for myself. Actually multiple careers, because I use what I have learned from the fire department, the licenses and things that I have, to form my own business. I have, like I said, my own training company. So just so you know, like I said, I have no degrees. Now, there's other, if you want to move up, So like me right now, even though I'm just a 7-year firefighter on the department that I'm on right now, but I am eligible if I wanted to be a chief, to apply for chief jobs. So that training I had took me probably about 7 months, but it was my own time, my own money. I was around the state of Michigan, and I'm a go-getter. So if there's a licenses or a certification that I need, I'm gonna go grab it. Now, to let you guys know, I have held a CPR card, which stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. I have held a CPR card since I was 13. So for 19 years, I have held a CPR card. So before I was even in the workforce, I have held a CPR card. So not knowing that this was one of the credentials that I needed for EMS and fire. So, and like I said, I turned that into a business. As far as I'm also an instructor. So, so I'm an instructor, and that took me about a year and a half. And with each level that I went up, I had to take a national test or a state test. And I passed. So now I'm working on my fire inspector. So that's another test that I already finished the class. I just have to pass the test. So it's not much. If you want to come into the fire service and just do just the bare minimum, you will still have a great career. If you're a go-getter like me and you one of the people that's well decorated, that got every type of credential, you can come in here and still make it a life for yourself. So it's all up to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Dr. Vanessa?
Okay. Whew. How I'm going to challenge that? How I'm going to challenge that with Rashimir. Yes. In the capacity of law enforcement, so a while ago, I believe you needed 20 college credits. No, I'm sorry, 60 college credits. But I would add within the department, there's a lot of training. There's a lot of things, tools, and that you can get. If you want to be a detective, you're going to detective bureau. There's a lot of training that you can get. If you want to get your CDL, you can do that. But the thing is, you have to make the department work for you. In addition of just being in the police department and helping people, I also went to school as a physician assistant. So I was able to go and get my license as a PA and worked in the ER, and which was another hat that I wear. And it has a different reward within itself. So it's all about just really making it work for you. And then I realized, okay, I'm in the police department, I'm in the PA, I got to do something with for the community. So I said, okay, let me go to public health. So, so I went on to public health, So, then I said, the public health, I'm going to be retiring soon. Well, I might as well retire as a doctor. So I said, let me just get my PhD. So at the end of my career, I end up with 6 degrees, but that's not something I rarely recommend. But it's rewarding. It's rewarding, and it has its benefits because you'll be able to tap into different things and different needs of people. And even training with Papa, I've learned the safer training, the suicide prevention, the mental health capacity. I was also an instructor, an adjunct at the Arthur Ashe Institute of Urban Health, where I taught physiology and health disparities and also cardiology. So it has its benefits, and I can put all the totality of what I know, medical, public health, law enforcement, community, and it be this big pillar and be able to be more accessible to the people that I serve.
Thank you. Wow. So many degrees. You got more degrees than the thermostat. Wow. All right, Dr. Bailey.
Yes, I really can identify with both of them, taking what you do and turning it into a business, and then also educating yourself, being forever the learner. Degrees, to do what I do or do what I did for those years, you would have to go to school to, first of all, get your bachelor's of arts, and then there are some work that you can do as a substance abuse therapist that at that level, but also going back to school to get your MA, or that's your Master's of Arts, or your MSW. I think we have an MSW on here today, Kenyatta, and getting that so that you can provide clinical treatment to individuals, and then going on and getting your PhD, which then opens up the wide vista of fields that you can do in terms of providing, becoming either a tester or a clinician, and then continuing on, because there are other things that are related that you might want to also do. I can identify with being a CPR person who had to actually learn how to do it. When you're working with substance abusers, you never know when they're going to OD. They could be in your office talking to you, and this has happened to me, in your office talking to you, and then all of a sudden they OD. You've got to be able to revive them, give them Narcan or whatever else that they need in order to help them to the next level. So it's going to require a lot of different training. You can't just say, I got this specific training and that's all I'm going to do, because you may be called upon to do a lot of different things. And as a clinical director, I had to also learn about quality control and how to evaluate others and other situations. So it takes a lot of training, and you as learners would be able to follow through with that. And sometimes you have to pay for that training, and sometimes it's just offered. You just have to make yourself available for it.
Thank you so much. So you guys are giving us so many rich nuggets, really, and it's like just trying to process all of this and hearing from the level of some who have gotten doctors to someone who's saying, hey, you don't have to get a degree, but you can just be a good go-getter and actually, recreate a niche for yourself. And I know we talk about that quite often in the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, that, you create multiple streams of income and you can create your own businesses and be your own boss. So I'm loving this. Now, as we move forward, we're going to ask you guys to limit your responses to 2 minutes. We have 6 more questions, and we have 20 minutes left on the show. So we're going to go with Amir. Go ahead. Question 4.
Okay, so my question is, are there any youth internships or pipeline programs related to your career that you'd like to share?
Yes, and that's a great question.
Any youth? Go ahead.
Yes, that's a great question. We just started here. I was about to give you guys, you know what? Here in the city of Lansing, the Lansing School District has a school program. We just finished our first pilot program just last month, and I was one of the instructors out there. And actually, we getting ready to start up here again when schools start back. Right now, we're running a 6-week summer program, which is just like introduction to fire and EMS, just to see if we get more candidates. I think right now we got 13 kids signed up for this next school year starting in August. This is bringing chills to me, because this is so beautiful, because these kids are going to leave high school able to work a career and have a pension, benefits, healthcare, and things like that, straight out of high school. No degree, just straight out of high school. Keep your record clean, things like that. Also, too, yes, I'm in conversation with multiple people from Flint Fire Department, and we're trying to get that in our city. We're trying to get that in Flint. And like I said, that was a great question, bro. You bring chills to me, because that's one thing that I love.
So Rashamir, when you talk to those people in Flint, tell them we have the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, and we would definitely be able to get the word out to multiple youth groups to possibly even recruit young people for that. So you guys already have an ally just waiting for you guys to let us know what the deal is, okay?
Right, most definitely. One more thing, City of Flint, if you guys can get with the fire department, I know for a fact they run a camp for young women. It's for a week. I don't know if it came or passed. But you can get with them, and then if I can give my information, I think I got your number now, Doc. I get with the top 2 chiefs in Flint, and see if they're running that program still, and then I can shoot you and Kenyatta the information if it's still room to sign up or if it hasn't passed. So
that'd be awesome. Thank you, Dr. Dedanzane. Any pipeline programs or internships for youth related to your career?
Yes. for NYPD has the Explorers, and this is an organization where youth can come in to learn about the careers in law enforcement, and they also have the cadets. And I believe, I'm not quite sure if the cadets is 2 years or 5-year programs, but once they finish that component, they can transition into become an officer.
Wow. Wow.
And
Dr. Bailey?
Well, to become a clinical therapist, it's going to take a while. So there are no actual programs that actually pipeline the youth into that. But the Flint Public Health Youth Academy is a pipeline to do. I just want to give a shout out to Flint Public
Go
Health Youth
fire,
Academy.
go fire. Yeah.
Is a pipeline to becoming involved in the field of substance abuse and any other kind of first responding areas of public health. We, as a substance abuse therapist, I was employed by the Genesee County Health Department and Genesee County Commission on Substance Abuse Services for more than 14 years. And that's what we did. And along those lines, we did provide emergency assistance, because anytime you have a substance abuser who actually ODs, you're going to need somebody that's going to be able to deal with that situation. I also work with the emergency rooms for many of the area hospitals, and as a consultant there for them, so that when someone came in, that they would know exactly how to handle it. When I started out doing this, we had doctors who had a substance abuser in the emergency room who had just OD'd, and they left their prescription pads in the room. And then they couldn't figure out why half of them were gone. So we had to go in and educate not only the individuals, but also those persons who work with them.
Got it. Thank you so much. Cruz, you're up next.
Hi. So in terms of preparation, what types of things should youth learn and do now if they want to go into your career field?
So for the fire service, EMS service, get your general studies out of the way in high school. Also work on keeping your record clean, even as far as like traffic violations. Work on being an upstanding citizen right now, and that would transition over into your fire EMS career. Get your driver's license. Like I said, at least get a GED, and work out, stay in shape, start to get a workout habit. Because sometimes you get on the job, you get lazy. I did. I gained 100 pounds in a few years just because I got lazy a little bit, but I'm working, turning that around. But yeah, so just continue to keep good physical workout ethic and things like that, and keep a good personality. So.
And Rashamir, you also mentioned earlier, now you got your CPR certification at 13. They can get their CPR certification now, right?
So yeah, and what you guys do for me, for my company, Second Chance CPR LLC, I train kids for free, and I did a ton of training over at Church Without Walls. So if you're 18 and under, you can come, or I can come to your family, to you guys, and I would train your whole family for free. 18 and under, I would train for free. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Awesome.
Also, if y'all got y'all group, I'll come to you guys. I don't know if you guys meet in person, or even we can do it on Zoom. Let's be creative. We can do it on Zoom. I only need like 30 minute to 45-minute segment. I can get you guys the basics.
Thank you. Great response. So did anyone have a response for that? You don't have to respond to every question, but anyone have a response to that particular question before we move on? Because I really want to get all of the questions in, because there's so many dynamic gems that you guys are giving us. So we want to make sure we can get it to our audience. Okay. All right. So Everett, you're up with the next question.
Okay. Next question is, what type of mental health stressors do you deal with related to your job often or occasionally?
And some of you spoke to those earlier, but mental health stressors that you deal with on the job.
So just a few more. Like I said, the type of calls that we run on, you got to figure we're running to the problem when people are running away from the problem. So some of those nasty, gory things that you see in movies and stuff like that, just think about it a little bit worse than that. Okay. And then also too, you know, some of the stressors that we deal with at home that we bring to work. So.
Got it.
Can I just jump in?
Go ahead.
I just want to jump into the last question that was asked in terms of what youth should be if they're looking for careers as far as law enforcement. Yes, it requires 60 credits in school, so college credits, high school transition to college. But I also want to just put it out there that be careful with your friends, posting pictures on Facebook, on social media. Be careful with gang signs that you may think is okay. Be careful with alcohol intake, because recruiters, they're looking at social media profiles, and it's not just your profile, it's also the profile of your friends as well. And if you want to take on a role and the responsibility in law enforcement, it comes with a huge responsibility. It's not just about donning this uniform and having a gun, because once you use that gun, there's consequences and stuff with that as well. So you want to be able to stay focused. And I'll echo what Rashamir was saying. Those parking tickets will be something to come back to haunt you later on. So just make sure, as little as simple as they may be, keep up with them as well. But most important, keep your integrity on point. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Bailey, you have anything?
No, they're doing a great job.
All right, Kayla, you're next.
All right, and I want to thank you all again for all the insight you've offered so far. Our next question is, what do you do as a coping mechanism to address those mental health stressors that you've discussed throughout our talk show today?
I'll jump in again. My thing is focusing on self-care. I try to be around positive people. I try to be around things that I like to do, whether it's music or just sometimes a quiet moment for myself. Now I'm looking into writing a script for open up a production company, but it's really to really get out there and just kind of like put your thoughts on paper. So it's good sometimes. It's okay to be by yourself. And it just really stay hydrated, stay positive and just be around positive people.
Before I got old, I used to walk. And I go to the track and do it because that was the only way I would be for certain that I would get in my miles per day. That was one of the things that kept me physically fit. And it's important to keep your mental fit by keeping your physical fit as well, because they all go hand in hand. Taking good care of your teeth too, that will help too, because nothing worse than, sitting, needing to listen and your mouth is hurting. But the other thing that I used to do is I used to write poetry. I love to write. And I got published a long time ago. So it's one of those things that will help you along the way to kind of get your thoughts out, especially if you're in the situation like I was, where I wasn't really supposed to do a lot of talking. I had to do a lot of listening, but then that created emotions on the inside of me, and I had to have a way to express those myself. And I also had my own therapist.
Everybody
That's
needs
fine.
a therapist.
Yes, I agree with that. And I got some funny stories as far as that, but we'll say that for another day. As far as me, prayer is big with me. I pray a lot. Also gospel music or R&B. My second most way to cope with it is I like to ride. So I think my long commutes to and from work helps me unwind. I call it concrete therapy. So my station is 77 miles away from my home. So I'm on a highway almost every day just because of business and things like that. But it give me time to think. Like the last couple of days, I'm actually just getting back from Miami, but even that ride to and from the airport, and then I just came back to work today. So that was another trip, and I'll be going back home in the morning. But I rode in silence, like literally rode in silence, and like I had so many thoughts, and then like I like pray and I can get it out, and that's one way that I ain't gotta feel embarrassed or saying certain things, but praying and get it out. And like the last 15 minutes, I wanted to listen to some Jodeci, so I put Jodeci R&B on, and I made my way to the station. So that's me.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing those coping strategies. Jasmine, are you on? I'm trying to see if Jasmine is on. Okay, so the next question then is, how has this past year during COVID-19 impacted how you do your job and maybe the stressors on those jobs? Because I mean, COVID was stressful just within itself. So how did that impact how you do what you do?
Wearing a mask, it, kind of restricted our breathing and things like that. And also too, our run volume has increased significantly. So where we were running maybe 13, 14 calls in a 24-hour period, like we're actually hitting like over 20 calls in a 24-hour period, which is almost a call an hour. And those calls take about 33 to 45 minutes to handle. And I have to say, you guys can call and talk to me anytime, because if you notice, I haven't had a call. It's just the slowest we've been today.
Anyone else?
It's been extremely difficult this past year, being in the ministerial field as well now, and providing therapy for people. Touch is so important when people are going through problems or going through issues, and not being able to actually touch someone, having to do all of the treatment and all of the therapy by phone, not being in the same room with someone. Those are all issues. And then myself being somewhat ill this past year, limited my speaking ability. So I've struggled with that. And I talk to Dr. Key all the time about the migraine headaches that I have and the brain fog that still troubles me from time to time. So all of these things hamper the work that I do, but I continue to do it anyway. I push through anyway. And you learn how to push through some of these issues so that you can continue to do the work that's very fulfilling in the community.
Absolutely. But when COVID hit for me, I was not in the country. I was out of the country for 8 months. So how it impacted me and what I do is that I had the opportunity to see the officers, how they were struggling, officers that had lost their lives, officers, and then also my counterpart in the medical examiner's office, how that became overwhelmed, and those that when we normally do city burials and how that, bodies and tons of reading the newspapers, getting the articles, information was just, it was just horrifying. And then I also had the liberty to think about my own kids because I was not in the country and I had to really concern myself about them. Are they taking care of themselves? Are they doing things? And it's not easy when you're miles away across the course of the ocean, and to really have that positive connection and impact and then be there for that support for them.
Thank you.
I just want to say one other thing that I allowed myself to do this year, and I allowed myself to cry. I gave myself permission to feel what I needed to feel and to cry about it. I lost people who I dearly cared about, and I had to let those emotions and those feelings come to the surface and then spill over, recognizing that I wasn't going to stay in that place forever, mainly because I have all of you to pull me out.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Bailey. So you guys, we're coming down to our last two questions, and Kayla, you're up.
Actually, we're gonna kind of combine these last two, and
Okay.
it'll just be a twofold question. So the first part is what has been the mental joys of your career? Because we want to share that positive aspect of the mental health spectrum, but also what is it that keeps you in this field?
I'll jump in. It's about saving somebody's life, making a difference in somebody's life, whether it's big or small. Just being there means a whole lot to that other person, that you could just lend them that ear.
Wow.
I'll go. It's seeing people who at their worst become their best. It's seeing people who start out as drug addicts, scrounging on the floor for drugs, who become CEOs of companies and who become doctors and lawyers. Is being able to watch people grow and become the best that they can become. That is a joy. And every time they still send me their schedules and their high points. They still do that. And that is a joy for me to know that in some kind of way I impacted somebody else's life.
Rashamir, I think his camera froze up on him.
Can you hear me?
A little bit, it's a little choppy, but we hear you.
You hear?
No.
Okay. Come to know that I'm just for a bit.
Say something now.
You're frozen, Doc. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
We can hear you. You're just frozen, but go ahead and talk.
Okay. Listen, I don't know if I'm having technical difficulties or what, but I'll skip this one. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
We hear you now. And we see you now.
I'm gonna skip this one. Okay, let's
But
just
that's
keep going. I'm gonna skip this.
It's the last question.
Oh. Okay.
So
like I said, I'm listening.
No, the question that Cruz asked was, what's been your mental health joys of your career and what keeps you in the field?
The mental health joy is that smile on someone else's face, seeing that you know their days brighten, and then also look being a inspiration and a motivator to somebody else community. There's not a lot of people in my community who does what I do.
Thank you.
Motivate and be interested in the fight. And just to show, here's my captain who looks like me. He's one of the few captains that we have.
You guys wave at the captain.
Man, get out of here.
That's awesome. So thank you. We heard you say putting a smile on people's face, motivating people, being an inspiration and inspiring people to do firefighting work. And so we're so grateful for all of you for just sharing with us. It's a couple of minutes over. We wanted to honor your time and the time of our viewers, but we thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences as first responders, sharing the mental health stressors and the coping mechanisms that you have to deal with so that you can function, but more so sharing with us the mental health joys and what you get out of being a part of first responding fields. Again, if you ever need us, give us a call. We're here, the Flint Public Health Youth Academy. We're here every other Friday at 6:30 on our Facebook. Join us. Next week we have, the next show we have a lineup. Again, we continue to talk about mental health. And we're going to talk to the LGBTQIA population, and we're going to talk about mental health. And so we're going to continue this campaign on mental health all summer long. Remember, all of us are mental health. What does mental health look like? It looks just like me. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.